right. All right. Let's go ahead and get this show started. All right. You ready to go live? Live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deep breath. Hold. And command yourself to relax. Welcome back, Wayfarer. Wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you are receiving this transmission. Another session of I and the Owl with Frank Monday. Let's go ahead and get into it. Hit the like and subscribe. Do all the happy horse shit that makes YouTube's Ogbots bark like Pavlov's dog. Ruff, ruff. Aren't we all just barking for the machine? Check me out on buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. Well, something in the tip jar goes a long way. Yes, indeed. Once again, like Finnegan, if you've got a yen to expand your kin, then let's get zen. Here on FM radio, Frank Monday transmission coming to you from the central kingdom of the celestial dragon, Twilight Zone, Old Peking. Far behind the bamboo firewall, guys. Trying to make it happen again. Those old Frank Monday productions coming at ya.
Okay guys, our next comedian is a bit of a treat, to be honest. It is a bit of a treat. He's been away for 3 years. He is now back from the dead. Well, America. Give a big round of applause for Frank Monday.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that shit. Nick's a good man. I know what that's like, being a good man. It's tough in a fucking city like this, though. You know, nobody gives a fuck. They're like, God damn, that's some crazy shit. Motherfucker wearing high heels and shit. Looking good, too, huh? Yeah, you guys like that. That's alright. It's okay to fall down occasionally. I do that sometimes. Alright, being back in the Jing is pretty fucking nerve-wracking. You know, performing for 4 minutes straight. The only other time I get this anxious when I gotta perform for 4 minutes straight is when I gotta make love to my wife.
Onion ring. Yeah, they're alright.
Hey, be watching for the Star Wars blog Rebellion coming out in December. You'll love it. It's follow-up to the award-winning Generations. Oh yeah. There you go, Frank.
Here's my burger. All right, all right, all right. There it is there. Frank Bundy. Coming at you once again like Finnegan, guys. Let's go ahead and engage in some thoughtful prayer. Begin with a deep breath. Hold it for 3, 2, 1 as you exhale. Command yourself to relax. Fill the mind and body with the light of our cosmos as we experience it through the prime material plane. Not the old light of the dead electric sphere of Ahriman's domain. You might want to even go ahead and turn the screen off as you enjoy the radio transmission. Adoration of Braxis. Say it with me if you know it, Wayfarer. Holy art thou. Give me a second. Holy art thou, Lord of the universe, the vast and the mighty one, creator of heaven and earth, maker of all things visible and invisible, master of both the light and the darkness, he who was, is, and always shall be. We adore thee and we invoke thee. Send us one of your divine spiritual agents, our holy guardian angel, to protect and guide us through the innumerable snares of the earthly sphere, and a cleansing wind to disperse all negativity and endless human opinion. Teach us those secret things which we must know for the completion of the great work and the glory of thine ineffable name, Adonai. So it is commanded and confirmed. So mote it be. Amen. Yeah, good magic. There it is there. I'm going to let Israel Regardi guide us through the invocation of Tahuti. Old Atlantean, right? Emerald tablets of Thoth. Let's invoke the god of magic together. Say the incantation if you know it. Say it with me, Wayfarer. No further ado.
Invocation of Thoth. Procul, o procul esti profani, par lasti ompeda. In the name of the mighty and terrible one, I proclaim that I have banished the shells unto their habitations. I invoke Tahuti, the Lord of wisdom and of utterance, the God that cometh forth from the veil. O thou majesty of the Godhead, wisdom-crowned Tahuti, Lord of the gates of the universe, thee I invoke. O thou of the ivy's head, thee I invoke. Thou who wieldest the wand of double power, thee I invoke. Thou who bearest in thy left hand the rose and cross of light and life, thee I invoke. Thou whose head is as an emerald, and thy nemesis as the night sky blue, thee I invoke. Thou whose skin is of flaming orange as though it burned in a furnace, thee I invoke. Behold, I am yesterday, today, and the brother of tomorrow. I am born again and again. Mine is the unseen force whereof the gods are sprung, which is as life unto the dwellers in the watchtowers of the universe. I am the charioteer of the east, lord of the past and of the future. I see by mine own inward light, Lord of resurrection, who cometh forth from the dusk, and my birth is from the house of death. O ye two divine hawks upon your pinnacles, who keep watch over the universe, ye who accompany the bier to the house of rest, who pilot the ship of wrong, ever advancing onwards the heights of heaven, Lord of the shrine which standeth in the center of the earth. Behold, he is in me, and I in him. Mine is the radiance wherein Ptah floateth over the firmament. I travel upon high. I tread upon the firmament of new. I raise a flashing flame with the lightning of mine eye, ever rushing on in the splendor of the daily glorified Ra, giving my life to the dwellers of earth. If I say, come up upon the mountains, the celestial waters shall flow at my word. For I am Ra incarnate, Kefra, created in the flesh. I am the eidolon of my father Tamu, Lord of the city of the sun. The God who commands is in my mouth. The God of wisdom is in my heart. My tongue is the sanctuary of truth, and a guard sitteth upon my lips. My word is accomplished every day, and the desire of my heart realizes itself as that of Ptah when he created his works. I am eternal, therefore all things are as my designs, therefore do all things obey my word. Therefore do thou come forth unto me from thine abode in the silence, unutterable wisdom, or light, or power. So, Hermes, Mercury, Odin, by whatever name I call thee, thou art still nameless to eternity. Come thou forth, I say, and aid and guard me in this work of art. Thou, star of the east, that didst conduct the Magi, thou art the same all present in heaven and in hell. Thou that vibratest between the light and the darkness, rising, descending, changing ever, yet ever the same. The sun is thy father, thy mother the moon. The wind hath borne thee in its bosom, and earth hath ever nourished the changeless Godhead of thy youth. Come thou forth, I say, come thou forth, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God the vast one may be obedient unto me.
So it is commanded and confirmed. So mote it be. Alright. Good magic. Welcome back, Wayfarer. Good to see you again, Apir. Not exactly sure how to read that name. Looks like it might be a funny script. Russian, maybe Greek. Who knows? Those backward R's certainly look Ruski to me. And today we're reading Martin Buber, I and Thou. We're on page 91 of the 1970 edition, published by Charles Scribner's Sons, New York, with extensive footnotes and some lengthy commentary at the beginning by Walter Kaufmann. Martin Buber came up with his dialogical is what they call it, I and Thou, when the let's see how they said it here. When the revival of Hasidism, a mystical movement that swept through Eastern European Jewry in the 18th and 19th centuries, out of this interest evolved his dialogical or I and thou philosophy. Professor Buber taught philosophy from 1938 to 1951 at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I am on, and you, if you're joining me, are on page 91. Florence Scovel. Florence Scovel Shin, Question in the Ideas Room from up here. Have you read Florence Scovel? No, not familiar, but you might make the suggestion. So thank you and welcome. I hope that background music isn't too apparent. We'll go ahead and roll it back just a little. And page 91, first paragraph here from the top. Art, too, as he beholds what confronts him, the form discloses itself to the artist. He conjures it into an image. The image does not stand in a world of gods, but in this great world of men. Of course, it is there, in quotations, even when no human eye afflicts it, but it sleeps. The Chinese poet relates that men do not want to hear the song that he was playing on his flute of jade. Then he played it to the gods, and they inclined their ears. And there he comes and experiences what there is to be experienced. That is how it is made, or this is what it expresses, or its qualities are such and such. And on top of all of that, perhaps also how it might rate. Yeah, we got to take into consideration V prime or E prime language. I've heard it, I've seen it promoted as both. Here on Impact Lab, they're calling it E prime language and said that it was formulated, advertisements have to pop up, formulated by, to be or not to be is not the question in the invented language of E prime. Another language constructed to make a philosophical point, E prime is simply a version of English that forbids all forms of the verb to be, is, was, were, etc. According to Alfred Korzybski, who promoted the language in his 1933 book Science and Sanity, E prime can be used to sharpen critical thinking and make ideas clearer. For example, in E prime, a person can't say, "This is an awful movie," but must rephrase it as, "I dislike this movie." "You're wrong" is also impossible. Instead, one must say, "I disagree with you." Because of this, it is easier for speakers and listeners to distinguish fact from opinion. There's a side note here that says, on the other hand, following E prime to the letter becomes extremely burdensome. This is a flower must be something rendered into English speakers call this a flower. Today they say E prime remains popular, but mostly just as an interesting thought exercise to improve clarity. So with E prime, or I've seen it other places connotated as or delineated, marked as V prime. So I'm not exactly sure which is the most current. With that in mind as the foundation of how we endeavor into philosophy, we can look for the flaws in what we're seeing and reading, or as they appear, right? Okay, so not that scientific and aesthetic understanding is not necessary, but it should do its work faithfully and immerse itself and disappear in that truth of the relation which surpasses understanding and embraces what is understandable. And thirdly, that which towers above the spirit of knowledge and the spirit of art becomes here evanescent, corporeal. Corporeal man need not banish himself into the enduring matter, but outlast it and rises himself as an image on the starry sky of the spirit. As the music of his living speech roars around him, pure action, the art that is not arbitrary, Here the you appeared to man out of a deeper mystery, addressed him out of the dark, and he responded with his life. Here the word has become life, and this life, whether it fulfilled the law or broke the law, both are required on occasion, lest the spirit die on earth. Thus it stands before posterity in order to teach it, not what is and not what ought to be, but how one lives in the spirit, in the countenance of the you. And that means it stands ready to become a you for them at any time, opening up the you world. No, it does not stand ready. It always comes toward them and touches them. But they, having become uneager and inept for such living intercourse that opens up a world, are well informed. They have been imprisoned, they have imprisoned the person in history and his speech in a library. They have codified the fulfillment or the breach, it does not matter which, nor are they stingy with reverence and even adoration, adequately mixed with some psychology, as is only proper for modern man. O lonely countenance, star-like in the dark, O living finger upon an insensitive forehead, O steps whose echo is fading. All right, that brings us to the next stanza, beginning at the bottom of page 92 and running on for 92 to 95, which we shall endeavor to read as well. Here, 20 minutes into the show, I would remind you, dear listener, if you've considered hitting the like button, and I'm not sure if you like the video or not, but I hope you do. And I hope you at least consider it. You might touch it, scratch at it, poke at it, titillate it, take a little jab at the like button. And if you enjoy the esoteric, the occult, arcane, magic, and all forms of cognitive inquiry into worlds of philosophy, religion, history, and magic, then you might want to sub up and pay attention to what we've got going on over here at the old Frank Monday channel. Thank you and welcome back. Bottom of page 92, the next stanza of I and Thou by Martin Buber. The improvement of the ability to experience and use generally involves a decrease in man's power to relate. The man who samples the spirit as if it were spirits, what is he to do with beings that live around him? Standing under the basic word of separation which keeps him apart, I and it, he has divided his life with his fellow men into two neatly defined distinctions, institutions and feelings, it distinct and I distinct. Institutions are what is out there, where for all kinds of purposes one spends time, where one works, negotiates, influences, undertakes, competes, organizes, administers, officiates, preaches. The halfway orderly and on the whole coherent structure where, with the manifold participation of human heads and human limbs, the rounds of affairs run its course. Feelings are what is in here, where one lives and recovers from the institutions. Here the spectrum of the emotion swings before the interested eye. Here one enjoys one's inclinations and one's hatred, pleasure, as if it were not too bad, pain. Here one is at home and relaxes in one's rocking chair. Institutions comprise a complicated forum, feelings, a boudoir that at least provides a good deal of diversity. This separation, to be sure, is continually endangered as our supportive feelings break into the most objective institutions, but with a little goodwill it can always be restored. A dependable separation is most difficult in the areas of our so-called personal life. In marriage, for example, it is not always so simple to attain, but time works wonders. In the areas of so-called public life, it is eminently successful. Consider, for example, how in the age of political parties, but also of groups and movements that claim to be above parties, heaven-storming congresses alternate flawlessly with the day-to-day operations that crawl along on the ground, whether mechanized and evenly or organically and slovenly. But the severed it of institutions is a golem, and the severed I of feelings is a fluttering soul bird. Here's a couple of footnotes. Gollum here says, number 7, Buber's Gloss, March 1937, an animated clod with a soul. And Soulbird, I bid, an allusion to the mythical notion of the soul as a bird. Okay, so readers aside to reset that paragraph. But the severed it of institutions is a golem, and the severed I of feelings is a fluttering soul bird. Neither knows the human being, one only the instance, and the other only the object. Neither knows person or community, neither knows the present. These, however, modern, know only the rigid past, that which is finished, while those, however persistent, know only the fleeting moment, that which is not yet. Neither has access to actual life. Institutions yield no public life. Feelings no personal life. That institutions yield no public life is felt more and more. Is felt by more and more human beings to their sorrow. This is the source of the distress of the search of our age. That feelings yield no personal life has been recognized by few so far, for they seem to be the home of what is most personal. And once one has learnt, like modern man, to become greatly preoccupied with one's own feelings, even despair over their unreality, while not easily open one's eyes, will not easily open one's eyes. After all, such despair is also a feeling, and quite interesting. Those who suffer because institutions yield no public life have thought of a remedy. Feelings are to loosen up or thaw or explode the institutions, as if they could be renewed by feelings, by introducing the freedom of feelings. When the autonomized state yokes together totally uncongenial citizens without creating or promoting any fellowship, it is supposed to be replaced by a loving community. And this loving community is supposed to come into being when people come together, prompted by free, exuberant feeling, and want to live together. But that is not how things are. True community does not come into being because people have feelings for each other, though that is required too, but rather on two accounts. All of them have to stand in a living, reciprocal relationship to a single living center, and they have to stand in a living, reciprocal relationship to one another. The second event has its source in the first, but is not immediately given with it. A living reciprocal relationship includes feelings, but is not derived from them. A community is built upon a living reciprocal relationship, but that builder is the living active center. Even institutions of so-called personal life cannot be reformed by a free feeling, although this is required. Marriage can never be renewed except by that which is always the source of all true marriage, that two human beings reveal the you to one another. It is of this that the you that is I, for neither of them builds a marriage. This is the metaphysical and metapsychical fact of love. This is the metaphysical and metapsychical. Sorry, readers aside, got those two words confused. This is the metaphysical and metapsychical fact of love, which is merely accompanied by feelings of love. Whoever wishes to renew a marriage on another basis is not essentially different from those who want to abolish it. Both declare that they no longer know the fact. Indeed, take the much discussed eroticism of our age and subtract everything that is really egocentric. In other words, every relationship in which one is not at all present to the other, but each uses the other only for self-enjoyment. What would remain? True public and true personal life are two forms of association. For them to originate and endure, feelings are required as a changing content, and institutions are required as a constant form. But even the combination of both still does not create human life, which is created only by a third element, the central presence of you, or rather, to speak more truthfully, the central you that is received in the present. Yeah, that was an interesting stanza there. I enjoyed it, and I found a lot of light in it. It's all a lot of over-intellectualizing, really. When it comes right down to it, the life-sustaining principle is the life-sustaining principle, and it can be nothing else. It's done through the act of the thing, right? I heard a speaker recently comment, one Master Kong, a doctor of philosophy, who said that man is entitled to the action of his actions, not the result of his actions. And so we can do that thing, but we will not receive the fruit of those things. Those become members of the past. It is the present act of acting that we're engaged in. This is the bridge between the past and the future. That pivotal crux where man finds himself uniquely positioned between heaven and earth. Heaven above, bringing in all future manifestations. Earth below, the storehouse and graveyard of all things that have settled into the past. We stand on that past. At the crux, the apex, the lever between heaven and earth. Jacob's ladder. The basic word ayat does not come from evil, any more than matter comes from evil. It comes from evil like matter that presumes to be that which has being. When man lets it have its way, the relentlessly growing it world grows over him like weeds. His own I loses its actuality until the incubus over him and the phantom inside him exchange the whispered confessions, the whispered confession of their need for redemption. There is that ends the previous stanza. The next one runs from the top of page 96 into the middle of page 100. And let me look it over before we begin. I'm still looking for, in the second part, it's supposed to start getting into magic. And I think there's only a brief treatise on it. There's only a brief treatment of it. And I don't even see where it begins. It looks like it's still quite a ways off in the future. And honestly, it's the only reason I picked up the book. But I thought that it would be unfair just to treat that section with difference and not go through the entire book and try to get a feeling of its greater contextual environment. But it looks like I might have even already gone over it and just didn't even register to me. Let me see here. No. Quantum Satis. It's somewhere around here. Okay, I do have a bookmark in here. Here we are. Divination, dogma. Nothing can doom the belief in doom. Meaningless. Capricious. Presence. I am. Napoleon. I think there's just that one brief little section where he gets into it, but we'll have to wait and see. before we come across it, right? In the meantime, let's drink a little coffee and enjoy a bit of It Works by RHJ from the Master Keys Society. I'll be right back in a minute, Wayfarer.
It Works by RHJ, the famous little red book that makes your dreams come true. A clear, definite, common-sense plan of accomplishment, originally published in 1926. This book, with its valuable message, is presented to you by the Master Key Society. Copyright 2021, Master Key Society, read by Randy Scott. All you joy would win must share it. Happiness was born a twin. Byron. The author sent the manuscript of this book for criticism to a friend who returned it with the notation, "It works." This judgment, born of experience, was adopted as the title of the book. Publishers. A concise, definite, restful plan with rules, explanations and suggestions for bettering your condition in life. If you know what you want, you can have it. The man who wrote this book is highly successful and widely known for his generosity and helpful spirit. He gives full credit for all that he has accomplished in mastering circumstances, accumulating wealth, and winning friends to the silent working out of the simple, powerful truth which he tells of in his work. He shows you here an easy, open road to a larger, happier life. Knowing that the greatest good comes from helping others without expecting praise, the author of this work has requested that his name be omitted. What is the real secret of obtaining desirable possessions? Are some people born under a lucky star or other charm which enables them to have all that which seems so desirable? And if not, what is the cause of the difference in conditions under which men live? Many years ago, feeling that there must be a logical answer to this question, I decided to find out, if possible, what it was. I found the answer to my own satisfaction, and for years have given the information to others who have used it successfully. From a scientific, psychological, or theological viewpoint, some of the following statements may be interpreted as incorrect, but nevertheless, the plan has brought the results desired to those who have followed the simple instructions, and it is my sincere belief that I am now presenting it in a way which will bring happiness and possessions to many more. If wishes were horses, beggars would ride, is the attitude taken by the average man and woman in regard to possessions. They are not aware of a power so near that it is overlooked, so simple an operation that it is difficult to conceive, and so sure in results that it is not made use of consciously, or recognized as the cause of failure or success. "Gee, I wish that were mine," is the outburst of Jimmy, the office boy, as a new red roadster goes by. And Florence, the telephone operator, expresses the same thought regarding a ring in the jeweler's window. While poor old Jones, the bookkeeper, during the Sunday stroll, replies to his wife, "Yes, dear, it would be nice to have a home like that, but it is out of the question. We will have to continue to rent." Landham, the salesman, protests that he does all the work, gets the short end of the money, and will someday quit his job and find a real one. And President Bondum, in his private sanctorum, voices a bitter tirade against the annual attack of hay fever. At home, it is much the same. Last evening, father declared that daughter Mabel was headed straight for disaster, and today, mother's allowance problem and other trying affairs fade into insignificance as she exclaims, "This is the last straw. Robert's schoolteacher wants to see me this afternoon. His reports are terrible. I know, but I'm late for bridge now. She'll have to wait until tomorrow." So goes the endless stream of expressions like these from millions of people in all classes who give no thought to what they really want, and who are getting all they are entitled to or expect.
Yeah, so one of the key first features of a life of greater abundance is to absolutely and definitively eliminate all negative self-talk. It's one of the aspects of the mind that is oftentimes programmed by society at the subconscious level. And you hear people quipping and speaking in a manner that is extremely flippant and wishy-washy. As a result, they entrain within their mind many, many things that are not useful and don't serve them in a profitable manner. So something to be aware of. We're at the top of page 96, starting into the next stanza. It'll run for a couple of pages here. It's I and Thou by Martin Buber. But isn't the communal life of modern man bound to be submerged in the it world? Consider the two chambers of this life, the economy and the state. Are they even thinkable in their present dimensions and ramifications, except on the basis of a superior renunciation of all immediacy, and even an inexorably resolute repudiation of any alien authority that does not itself have its source in this area? And if the I that experiences and uses holds sway here in the economy, the I that uses goods and services, in politics, the I that uses opinions and aspirations, is it not precisely to this absolute dominion that we owe the extensive and firm structure of the great objective fabrics in these two spheres? Doesn't the form-giving greatness of leading statesmen and businessmen depend on their way of seeing the human beings with whom they have to deal with, not as carriers of an inexperienceable you, but rather as centers of services and aspirations that have to be calculated and employed according to their specific capacities? Wouldn't their world come crashing down upon them if they refused to add up he plus he plus he to get an it, and tried instead to determine the sum of you and you and you, which can never be anything else than you? What would this come to if not an exchange of form-giving mastery for a puttering diletanism, and of lucid, powerful reason for a murky enthusiasm? And when we turn our eyes from the leaders to the led and consider the fashion of modern work and possession, don't we find that modern developments have expunged almost every trace of a life in which human beings confront each other and have meaningful relationships? It would be absurd to try to reverse this development. And if one could bring off this absurdity, the tremendous precision instrument of this civilization would be destroyed at the same time, although this alone makes life possible for the tremendously increased numbers of humanity. It's interesting that he would look at the situation in such a way, and this is like, what are we talking? I believe he wrote it during his service at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. So we're talking 90 years ago, 80 to 90 years ago, and already at that early time, it was apparent to him that society had lost much of its humanity in having relationships with people. We've got a visitor in the chat room. Greetings and welcome to Stephen Davis, 5626. And yeah, double that thumbs. That'll give me 0 thumbs, right? Yeah, so thank you for that. I can appreciate it. Yeah. Have a good time, and check back for more sessions of I and Now. Second paragraph on page 97 now. Speaker, you speak too late, but a moment ago you might have believed your own speech. Now this is no longer possible. For an instant ago you saw no less than I that the state is no longer led. The stokers still pile up coal, but the leaders merely seem to rule the racing engines. And in this instance, while you speak, you can hear as well as I how the machinery of the economy is beginning to hum. in an unwantoned manner. The overseers give you a superior smile, but death lurks in their hearts. They tell you that they have adjusted the apparatus to modern conditions, but you notice that henceforth they can only adjust themselves to the apparatus, as long as that permits it. Their spokesmen instruct you that the economy is taking over the heritage of the state. You know that there is nothing to be inherited but the despotism of the proliferating it, under which the I, more and more impotent, is still dreaming that it is in command. Yeah, that's an interesting observation on his part. Again, even back then, right? How much more so now? I think the overall upshot of, pardon me, of this message, though, is that not all hope is lost. Man's communal life cannot dispense any more than he himself with the it world, over which the presence of the you floats like the spirit over the face of the waters. Man's will to profit and will to power are natural and legitimate, as long as they are tied to the will to human relations and carried by it. There is no evil drive until the drive detaches itself from our being. The drive that is wedded to and determined by our being is the plasma of communal life, while the detached drive spells its disintegration. The economy as the house of the will to profit, and state as the house of the will to power, participate in life as long as they participate in the spirit. If they abjure the spirit, they abjure life. To be sure, life takes its time about settling the score, and for quite a while one may still think that one sees a form move where for a long time a mere mechanism has been whirring. Introducing some sort of immediacy at this point is surely futile. Loosening the framework of the economy or the state cannot make up for the fact that neither stands any longer under the supremacy of the you, saying spirit, and stirring up the periphery cannot replace the living relationship to the center. The structures of communal human life derive their life from the fullness of the relational force that permeates their members, and they derive their embodied form from the saturation of this force by the spirit. The statesman or businessman who serves the spirit is no dilettante. He knows well that he cannot simply confront the people with whom he has to deal as so many carriers of the you, without undoing his own work. Nevertheless, he ventures to do this, not simply, but up to the limit suggested to him by the Spirit. And the Spirit does suggest a limit to him, and the venture that would have exploded a severed structure succeeds where the presence of you floats above. He does not become a babbling enthusiast. He serves the truth which, though supra-rational, does not disown reason, but holds it in her lap. What he does in communal life is no different from what is done in his personal life by a man who knows that he cannot actualize the you in some pure fashion, but who nevertheless bears witness of it daily to the it, defining the limit every day anew, according to the right and measure of that day, discovering the limit anew. Neither work nor possessions can be redeemed on their own, but only by starting from the Spirit. It is only from the presence of the Spirit that significance and joy can flow into all work, and reverence and the strength to sacrifice into all possessions, not to the brim, but quantum satis, and that all is that is worked and possessed, though it remains attached to the it world, can nevertheless be transfigured to the point where it confronts us and represents the you. There is no back behind it. There is, even at the moment of the most profound need indeed, only then a previously unsuspected beyond it. Whether it is the state that regulates the economy or the economy that directs the state is unimportant as long as both are unchanged. Whether the institutions of the state become freer and those of the economy juster, that is important. But not for the question concerning actual life that is being posed here, for they cannot become free and just on their own. What is decisive is whether the spirit, the you-saying, responding spirit, remains alive and actual, whether it becomes independently active, whether what abides of it in individual human life incorporates it itself again into communal life. But that certainly cannot be accomplished by dividing communal life into independent realms that also include the life of the spirit. That would merely mean that the regions immersed in the it world would be abandoned forever to this despotism, while the spirit would lose all actuality, for the spirit in itself can never act independently upon life. That it can only do in the world, with its force which penetrates and transforms the it world. The spirit is truly at home with itself, when it can confront the world that is opened up to it, give itself to the world and redeem it, and through the world also itself. But the spirituality that represents the spirit nowadays is so scattered, weakened, degenerate, and full of contradictions that it could not possibly do this until it had first re-entered to the essence of the spirit being able to say you. That's the end of that stanza. The next one begins a quarter of the way down the page of page 100. And let's see how much longer is left in this section of the book. It looks like there's about 10 or so pages. Let me see here. A few more. About 12 pages before we begin. No, 22 pages, sorry. Before we begin the third part of the book, which is, I believe, the third and final part. There might be a fourth part here. Let me check. Yeah, I do believe there is an epilogue. There is no fourth section. There's a third section with a very short afterword stating that the first edition was printed in 1923. So just over 100 years. Conception of the work began in the spring of 1916. And the first complete draft of the book was fall 1919, and the final version was 1922. In October 1957, Buber wrote the following afterword for the second edition and omitted the 3 lines translated above. Buber's footnotes are found on page 183. But we are on page 100 of just under 200 pages in a book, so we're a little over halfway through it, and the last 15 pages or so are his footnotes and a glossary which yeah, we've got a glossary and yeah, footnotes, and that's it. So we've got let's see, 100 through 168. We've got approximately 68 more pages to go. And we'll have to save some more for another session because we're at the 1 hour mark. I wanted to listen to a little more of RHJ It Works, and then at the 1 hour mark, we can give the channel updates and possibly open the panel to any visitors. If there's anybody out there in Happy Land that would like to get up here and talk a little I and Thou philosophy and It Works philosophy. since we're going to do a 2-for-1 this time, because it's quite a banger, and I really enjoy this this presentation. So let's get into it. We'll get about 5 minutes of this, and I'll be in the chat room for you. So welcome back, Wayfarer.
If you're one of these millions of thoughtless talkers or wishers and would like a decided change from your present condition, you can have it. But first of all, you must know what you want, and this is no easy task. When you can train your objective mind, the mind you use every day, to decide definitely upon the things or conditions you desire, you will have taken your first big step in accomplishing or securing what you know you want. To get what you want is no more mysterious or uncertain than the radio waves all around you. Tune in correctly, and you get a perfect result. But to do this, it is, of course, necessary to know something of your equipment and have a plan of operation. You have within you a mighty power, anxious and willing to serve you, a power capable of giving you that which you earnestly desire. This power is described by Thompson J. Hudson, Ph.D., LL.D., author of The Law of Psychic Phenomena as Your Subjective Mind. Other learned writers use different names and terms, but all agree that it is omnipotent. Therefore, I call this power Emmanuel, God in us. Regardless of the name of the great power, or the conscious admission of a God, the power is capable and willing to carry to a complete and perfect conclusion very earnest desire of your objective mind. But you must be really in earnest about what you want. Occasional wishing or half-hearted wanting does not form a perfect connection or communication with your omnipotent power. You must be in earnest, sincerely and truthfully desiring certain conditions or things, mental, physical, or spiritual. Your objective mind and will are so vacillating that you usually only wish for things and the wonderful. Capable power within you does not function. Most wishes are simply vocal expressions. Jimmy, the office boy, gave no thought of possessing the red roadster. Landham, the salesman, was not thinking of any other job or even thinking at all. President Bondum knew he had hay fever and was expecting it. Father's business was quite likely successful, and Mother no doubt brought home first prize from the bridge party that day. But they had no fixed idea of what they really wanted their children to accomplish and were actually helping to bring about the unhappy conditions which existed. If you are in earnest about changing your present condition, here is a concise, definite, resultful plan with rules, explanations, and suggestions. The plan. Write down on paper, in order of their importance, the things and conditions you really want. Do not be afraid of wanting too much. Go the limit in writing down your wants. Change the list daily, adding to or taking from it, until you have it about right. Do not be discouraged on account of changes, as this is natural. There will always be changes and additions with accomplishments and increasing desires. 3 positive rules of accomplishment. 1. Read the list of what you want 3 times each day, morning, noon, and night. 2. Think of what you want as often as possible. 3. Do not talk to anyone about your plan except to the great power within you, which will unfold to your objective mind the method of accomplishment. It is obvious that you cannot acquire faith at the start. Some of your desires, from all practical reasoning, may seem positively unattainable, but nevertheless, write them down in your list in the proper place of importance to you. There is no need to analyze how this power within you is going to accomplish your desires. Such a procedure is as unnecessary as trying to figure out why a grain of corn placed in fertile soil shoots up a green stalk, blossoms and produces an ear of corn containing hundreds of grains, each capable of doing what the one grain did. If you will follow this definite plan and carry out the 3 simple rules, the method of accomplishment will unfold quite as mysteriously as the ear of corn appears on the stalk, and in most cases, much sooner than you expect.
Yeah, it's important that we take a moment to have a little bit of a closer look at what he said right there in the book. Let me see if I can't pull it back
Power
just
within
a
you.
bit to get that first one. I think it just says write down 3.
Accomplishment.
Yeah, here we are. it works the general plan, right? Write down on paper, in order of their importance, the things and conditions you really want. Don't be afraid of wanting too much. Go the limit in writing down your wants. And with the I and thou philosophy and the E prime language, you're going to want to contemplate and reflect on how those things are going to be useful and serve the spirit and be serviceable to your relationships, right? Like getting more money, a nicer house, a better car, clothes, whatever. These material possessions ultimately are to better facilitate your ability to have richer, better relationships with your family, friends, community members, colleagues, coworkers, this kind of thing. So you want to really reflect on how those larger aspects are going to play out within your thriving as a human being within an organized society, right? So this is a really important aspect of it that you definitely shouldn't overlook. I just think I messed up Bluetooth. Let me see if it'll turn back on. No, it looks like my Bluetooth is going to... Let me see if that affected my microphone. Looks like my microphone's still working, so I'll just keep trugging along like it's all still working perfectly until I learn different from the internet here. All right, guys, we are at the 1 hour mark, and I did say that I would drop the link, but it doesn't look like StreamYard is offering up the link anymore via the address here on my thing, which is weird. So when I click on this, it doesn't even have where I'm tuning in from. Very interesting. So I wonder how we share that out anymore on this new system. View on YouTube. You are live. Edit, remove. Yeah, fascinating. Let's see if the link appears here. Guests. Upgrade to ensure your guests can go live. Layouts. General. Camera. Audio. Visual, recording, hotkeys. See if a hotkey might have it. See if there's any link there. No links under the hotkey. Layout, guests, none of it seems to have the link anymore. Very strange. Maybe if I jump out of the studio and come back in, it will show it. Not sure though. I'm going to go ahead and finish reading this though before I worry about it. Let me see what that button does. New layout, manage layouts, present or invite. I wonder if that'll, oh, invite guest. Okay, this gives me the link. There it is. Copy. All right, it says it's copied and then it should be able to post right in. Yeah, there it is there, guys. I just went ahead and dropped the link. So, let me see. Where's the original idea? There it is there. As always, chat is open to anyone of a cheerful and polite nature. That doesn't, yeah, so, you know, that doesn't mean it's just open to any old riffraff off the street, right? We try to like to stay away from troublemakers as much as we can here on the internet. Troublemakers gonna do what they do best, right? They're gonna cause trouble. Looks like someone may have steered away, so they might be steering towards the StreamYard. And we'll see here if we get any takers popping in the back room, and we'll deal with that as it may occur. Yeah, okay, so Frank Monday coming at you, once again like Finnegan, from the central kingdom of the celestial dragon, Twilight's own Opie King, far behind the bamboo firewall. We're doing an I and Thou, session 14. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Do all that happy horse shit that makes YouTube's algorithms bark like Pavlov's dogs. Definitely check me out on buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. A little something in the tip jar goes a long way. And that'll do it for the blurbs. So welcome back, Wayfarer, Wanderer, Wildcat alike. There will always be changes and additions with accomplishments and increasing desires. Do not be discouraged on account of changes, as this is natural. 3 positive rules for accomplishment. Number 1, so write down on paper, in order of their importance, the things and conditions you really want. Do not be afraid of wanting too much. Go to the limit in writing down. Change the list daily. I would say work with a list of like 3 to 7 items to start off with, and then refine that list over time. Read the list of what you want 3 times each day: morning, noon, and night.
1. Read the list of what you want 3 times each day: morning, noon, and night. 2. Think of what you want as often as possible. 3. Do not talk to anyone about your plan except to the great power within you, which will unfold to your objective mind the method of accomplishment.
All right, so the second rule there was think of what you want as often as possible and go through the internal visualization process of the feelings, sensations, and scenes of what it looks like once you have it, right? Of course, this is all the volantic and decreic process in magic. The last part of this is the possism section. Do not talk to anyone about your plan except to the great power within you, which will unfold to your objective mind the method of accomplishing it, of accomplishment. Not only that, it'll just take you there naturally once you've done the third part of the magical incantation of abrahadabra, right? It's right here. Number 1, the volantia state, the wizard's will or magical intent. That's the writing down process, right? The inking of it. And then decreeism, that evoking outward, which is actually inward into the fathomless cavern, the speaking of the thing into being, the abracadabra part of the equation. And then number 3, arriving at the open, receptive hands, both hands out in front of you, receiving the gift from the universe, that unperturbed, receptive state of allowing goals to come to fruition, right? This is the magical process here delineated by the tradition that I study, okay? And he goes on, it's obvious that you cannot acquire faith at the start. Some of your desires, from all practical reasoning, may seem positively unattainable, but nevertheless write them down on your list in their proper place of importance to you. Let's go on listening. It's really good stuff, guys. And thank you for being here. To all the people out in Happy Land. Dr. D, good to see you, man. Huge shout out. I appreciate you being here, beloved.
It is obvious that you cannot acquire faith at the start. Some of your desires, from all practical reasoning, may seem positively unattainable, but nevertheless, write them down in your list in the proper place of importance to you. There is no need to analyze how this power within you is going to accomplish your desires. Such a procedure is as unnecessary as trying to figure out why a grain of corn placed in fertile soil shoots up a green stalk, blossoms and produces an ear of corn containing hundreds of grains, each capable of doing what the one grain did. If you will follow this definite plan and carry out the 3 simple rules, The method of accomplishment will unfold quite as mysteriously as the ear of corn appears on the stalk, and in most cases, much sooner than you expect. When new desires, deserving position at or about the top of your list come to you, then you may rest assured you are progressing correctly. Removing from your list items which at first you thought you wanted is another sure indication of progress. It is natural to be skeptical and have doubts, distrust, and questionings. But when these thoughts arise, get out your list, read it over, or if you have it memorized, talk to your inner self about your desires until the doubts that interfere with your progress are gone. Remember, nothing can prevent your having that which you earnestly desire. Others have these things. Why not you? The omnipotent power within you does not enter into any controversial argument. It is waiting and willing to serve when you are ready. But your objective mind is so susceptible to suggestion that it is almost impossible to make any satisfactory progress when surrounded by skeptics. Therefore, choose your friends carefully and associate with people who now have some of the things you really want, but do not discuss your method of accomplishment with them. Put down in your list of wants such material things as money, home, automobile, or whatever it may be. But do not stop there. Be more definite. If you want an automobile, decide what kind, style, price, color, and all other details, including when you want it. If you want a home, plan the structure, grounds, and furnishings. Decide on location and cost. If you want money, write down the amount. If you want to break a record in your business, put it down. It may be a sales record. If so, write out the total, the date required, then the number of items you must sell to make it. Also list your prospects and put after each name the sum expected. This may seem very foolish at first, but you can never realize your desires if you do not know how positively and in detail what you want and when you want it. If you cannot decide this, you are not in earnest. You must be definite, and when you are, results will be surprising and almost unbelievable. A natural and ancient enemy will no doubt appear when you get your first taste of accomplishment. This enemy is discredit, in form of such thoughts as, "It can't be possible. It just happened to be. What a remarkable coincidence." When such thoughts occur, give thanks and assert credit to your omnipotent power for the accomplishment. By doing this, you gain assurance and more accomplishment.
And at the same time, I think that it's super important for one to recognize that this omnipotent power is the same source that creates our life from nothing, right? We literally emerge out of nothingness and then are sui generously created into this physical thing and gradually complicate ourselves. But we do so with the unseen factor of God's energy manifesting into the world. And so with God as the foundation and crown of that thing which is, then you're showing, you're giving credit where credit is due and not, like this was, I forget what they called the spiritualist movement of the 1900s, the New Thought movement. Is that what it was called? Which they had a lot of powerful ideas within it, but sometimes they might overlook that. And so I think it's important to remember that, right? The Holy Spirit is that creative force bringing it all into being.
Time, prove to yourself that there is a law which actually works at all times when you are in tune with it. Sincere and earnest thanks cannot be given without gratitude, and it is impossible to be thankful and grateful without being happy. Therefore, when you are thanking your greatest and best friend, your omnipotent power, for the gifts received, do so with all your soul and let it be reflected in your face. The power in what it does is beyond understanding. Do not try to understand it, but accept the accomplishment with thankfulness, happiness, and strengthened faith. Caution. It is possible to want and obtain that which will make you miserable, that which will wreck the happiness of others, that which will cause sickness and death, that which will rob you of eternal life. You can have what you want, but you must take all that goes with it. So in planning your wants, plan that which you are sure will give to you and your fellow man the greatest good here on earth, thus paving the way to that future hope beyond the pale of human understanding. This method of securing what you want applies to everything you are capable of desiring, and the scope being so great. It is suggested that your first list consist only of those things with which you are quite familiar, such as an amount of money or accomplishment, or the possession of material things. Such desires as these are more easily and quickly obtained than the discontinuance of fixed habits, the welfare of others, and the healing of mental or bodily ills. Accomplish the lesser things first, then take the next step. And when that is accomplished, you will seek the higher and really important objectives in life. But long before you reach this stage of your progress, many worthwhile desires will find their place on your list. One will be to help others as you have been helped. Great is the reward to those who help and give without thought of self, as it is impossible to be unselfish without gain. In conclusion, a short while ago, Dr. Émile Coué came to this country and showed thousands of people how to help themselves. Thousands of others spoofed at the idea, refused his assistance, and are today where they were before his visit. So with the statements and plan presented to you now, you can reject or accept. You can remain as you are or have anything you want. The choice is yours. But God grant that you may find in this short volume the inspiration to choose aright. Follow the plan and thereby obtain, as so many others have, all things, whatever they may be, that you desire. Read the entire book over again, and again, and then again. Memorize the 3 simple rules on pages 13 and 14. Test them now on what you want most this minute. This book could have extended easily over 350 pages, but it has been deliberately shortened to make it as easy as possible for you to read, understand, and use. Will you try it? Thousands of bettered lives will testify to the fact that it works. A letter to you from the author. Dear reader, the great possessions of life are all gifts mysteriously bestowed. Sight, hearing, aspiration, love, or life itself. The same is true of ideas. The richest of them are given to us. As for instance, the powerful idea which this book has given you. What are you going to do with it? Are you surprised when I tell you the most profitable thing you can do is give it away? You can do this in an easy and practical way by having this book sent to those you know who need it. In this way, you can help in the distribution of this worthwhile effort to make the lives of others better and happier. You know people who are standing still or who are worried and discouraged. This is your chance to help them help themselves. If you withhold this book from them, you will lose the conscious satisfaction that comes from doing good. If you see that they get this book, then you put yourself in line with the law of life which says you get by giving, and you may rightly expect prosperity and achievement. At the very least, you will have the inner sense of having done a good deed with no hope of being openly thanked, and your reward will come secretly in added power and larger life. The author.
Yeah, there it is there. There was a book, It's More Blessed to Give Than to Receive. Yeah, I agree with you there, Sophia. Yeah, so the reason I mentioned the arbitrariness of the year Dr. D had, I was trying to get a sense of what they had before linear chronology. Yeah, I had tried to live my life by the Yellow Emperor's calendar, and I had just dredged up that number 4659 from memory. But yeah, I had vaguely recalled that we were somewhere in the 4700s, so I went ahead and looked it up, and they said that the calendar started in 2637, so the year would be on or about 4724 right now by the Yellow Emperor's calendar. And so I thought that, it's interesting to keep that in mind when you think about things like an arbitrary date like 2026. And then if you think about the J and I that the Jesuits supposedly were using on the calendars, and that there may have been you know, an unknown 1,000 years added to it, that it really doesn't matter that much. And better to not worry about it too much.